to the GAB by the Independent Press Award. I'm your hostess, Gabby Olczak. Joining us today is Erika Adams, author of New Moon's Family, a 2022 New York City Big Book Award distinguished favorite for children's educational and book cover design for picture books. Erika earned a bachelor's degree in English from the University of Minnesota. She's a storyteller, an author, and a radio host of The Tale Collector in Duluth, Minnesota. Congratulations, Erika, and welcome to the GAB.
Yes, thank you very much.
It's so nice to have you here. As I mentioned in my intro, you're not only an author, Erika, but also a storyteller. Tell us what inspired your love of writing, reading, and storytelling.
Well, I think it began when I was actually very, very young. When I was about 16 months old, I was diagnosed with a condition called Auditory Processing Disorder, which affects the way my brain takes in information. And so I think, when I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of TV and a lot of movies. But as I got older and, I matured, I did finally get into reading books. For a long time, I had a lot of trouble reading. I knew the words, but the images weren't coming through, but that got easier as time went on. And yeah, I think that really inspired my love of stories, partly because, that was how I got my information, but without all the, judgment that I got from real people, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Books are definitely the best way to escape, if you will. Mm-hmm. And A New Moon actually isn't your first book, Erika. You wrote a YA chapter book, which I understand is semi-autobiographical. It's called Allie's Adventure on the Wonder. Tell us what inspired you to write that book.
Yeah, the idea first came when I was in a college course. I think it was a childhood in literature and culture, which studied the depiction of children in various stories, for both children and adults. I had an assignment where one option was to write a 10-page essay, and another option was to write my own short story with a 4 or 5 page essay. And I was pretty tired of full essays by then, so I opted for the short story. And Allie's Adventure evolved from that. And it took me about 2 months to write. That's roughly how long we had to do the assignment. And with a little bit of polish, I self-published after the assignment was finished.
Congratulations. What type of advice can you give perhaps children or even adults that have some type of challenge such as yours as you were growing up? They might have auditory processing disorder or other challenges. What words of wisdom can you offer them?
Well,
you didn't let writing stop you. It was definitely a challenge, and yes, reading must have been a challenge, but now it's your life's work. So what would you offer advice to friends of ours that have challenges?
Yeah, in spite of what I said before, really do try to, talk to people. Escape is fine, but don't let it, turn you into a hermit or anything. There are people, who can, who will be willing to listen, and who can try to help. So yeah, just, go out and have experiences, go out and talk to people.
That's great advice. Well, I understand you spend an awful lot of time talking since you're the radio host of The Tale Collector. Erika, tell us what that's all about.
Yeah. The Tale Collector is a 15-minute show that I produce once every 2 months. In it, I choose a story to highlight that I don't think gets a lot of attention, or that may be more obscure or older. I talk about books, movies, video games, music, TV shows, because I think, there are a multitude of different types of storytelling out there. Just as much as there are many different stories out there, there are different types of storytelling. And they each have their own, strengths and abilities, not just books, of course.
Of course. If I may, I'd like to quote something from your book, New Moons. If you always keep your family close to your heart, you'll never be apart. New Moon is not just a beautiful picture book, Erika. It's really gorgeous. It's about the phases of the moon, but it's much deeper than that. Tell us what inspired you to write New Moon. What was that all about?
Well, the initial idea, just kind of popped into my head. I think I was on my way to college one day, and then, the idea just kept percolating in my head. And so I wrote my first draft during my lunch break one day.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. But let's not minimize the process, because we know that it's a struggle to write. How long I know you started it then and you wrote it, but really, how long did the whole process take?
Right. Well, once I decided I actually wanted to publish it, the whole process took almost 2 years, I think, from the time that I really began, polishing it. And then when I hired Eric Soderstrom to illustrate it. Yeah. And then, finding Beavers Pond Press, who agreed to publish it. Just, the various processes that went into it altogether, it took about 2 years.
That it does. It takes quite a long time. So New Moon's Family, what inspired you to write it? Let's get back to that. What gave you the idea? I mean, did something just pop up in your mind in between classes?
Yeah, kind of. It wasn't until, later that, I think I realized, what really inspired me to do it. I don't think I was thinking much of it at the time, but later on, I think it really hit me why it was so important. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen, I've dedicated it to my younger brother, Noah. He lives with my father and stepmother in Illinois. Once I finished it, I dedicated it to him because I don't get to see him that often. I think when I first wrote it, he was about 5 or so, but now he's in his early 20s as of right. And I've only seen him a couple of times during that period.
Hence the beautiful line, if you always keep your family close to your heart, you'll never be apart. So what did your brother think about the book? What does he think about the book?
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't there when he got it, but according to my father, he was very happy with that.
I'm sure I'd be very moved if someone dedicated a book to me as well. So let's talk about your illustrator, Eric. It really is a beautifully illustrated book. Did you know Eric before you started working together?
No, I didn't. I met him through a mutual friend of ours. Her name is Shelly. At the time, Shelly and I were part of a writers group that met in Two Harbors every month. And I was working on a different story involving dragons. And I was telling my group how I wanted to maybe try to look for an illustrator for that. And Shelly recommended Eric to me. I didn't know him at the time, but yeah, she took me to the local art gallery where she worked, and she showed me his work. And yeah, he does a lot of fantasy art, like dragons, among other things. And I really liked his work. So I was introduced through her.
So pretty much right away, I'm sure you had a vision in your mind as a writer of children's books, what exactly you were looking for. So did you immediately know upon seeing Eric's work that he was the one?
It's kind of hard to say at the time. I mean, I had only seen, his, his fantasy work. It was more along the lines of like Lord of the Rings, fantasy type stuff. But yeah, I thought I would, talk to him and just, see what else he had done. And I think he had gotten a new computer and a new art program at the time. So he thought it was a good chance to kind of experiment with that. And I already had some initial designs. Some of them were my own doodles, and some of them were from my stepsister, who is kind of a really nice artist in her own right. So I gave him ideas on what I wanted, and then he did some experimentation on that until we hit on something we both like.
So how much input did you have with Eric's work after you initially okayed what he was doing? Did you go back and forth a lot, or did you just give him the text and let him run with it?
I kind of let him run with it. I kind of gave him the bare minimum, but otherwise, I told him, go nuts.
Well, he's an artist, so that's probably exactly what he needed to hear. So what happened with your dragon book? You mentioned you were working on a dragon book. What happened with that?
That's kind of on the back burner for now. It's essentially a short story. I may rewrite that someday. In hindsight, that's pretty rough. So I think I'm gonna take a break from that and then try to polish it up later.
So that's on the back burner. Are you working on any other book projects now? Any ideas simmering?
Yeah, right now I'm focused on my first novel for adults. It's a
Wow.
speculative science fiction novel for adults.
Looking forward to that. And how far along are you in that process?
Just based on what I want to happen throughout the story, I'm thinking roughly halfway finished with that.
Wow. That's wonderful. Do you have a publisher already?
No, the only people I've shown my chapters to are my writers groups,
And are they well received?
So far so good. I'm a little nervous about this one because, like I said, it's for adults. It's my first time trying to write something more mature. I mean, I'm still trying to, keep it tasteful,
Yes.
Yeah.
So you've really you're really diverse as far as your writing work, YA, children's books, and now you're entering the adult sci-fi phase. That's fantastic. Where can we purchase New Moon's Family?
You can find it on Amazon for sure.
Okay.
If you go to my website, elatales.com, on the homepage, if you just click on the New Moon's Family book cover, it'll take you to a page where you can find a list of places to buy it.
Wonderful. Any advice to aspiring authors?
Just keep writing. Yeah, just keep writing. Don't worry about making it perfect the first time. I've written multiple drafts, just of single chapters, and I've of, my novel, and, and I'm still, just polishing those drafts. So yeah, so just keep writing and don't be afraid to share it, because, the more people you show it to, the more advice you're going to get, more constructive criticism, and that is essential.
Absolutely. Erika, thank you so much for joining us today. This is Gabby Olczak of the GAB Talks. Until next time, keep reading.